What if I told you that your mind is quietly conspiring against you every single day? That every doubt, every hesitation, every "I can't" is a shadow that steals the life you're capable of living, and yet there's a force inside you, hidden, untamed, unstoppable, waiting for you to wake it up. This is the moment where everything you thought you knew about possibility gets turned on its head. What if I told you that your mind is quietly conspiring against you every single day? That every doubt, every hesitation, every "I can't" is a shadow that steals the life you're capable of living. And yet, there's a force inside you, hidden, untamed, unstoppable, waiting for you to wake it up. This is the moment where everything you thought you knew about possibility gets turned on its head. Too often, people wander through life thinking the world owes them understanding, opportunity, or success, and when the world doesn't comply, they shrink, they settle, they stop believing in themselves. But the truth is far more empowering. The world bends only for those who learn to bend themselves first, not in submission, but in disciplined mastery over thought, desire, and action. Every mind carries the blueprint for either liberation or limitation, and the choice of which path to follow is made thousands of times a day in small, seemingly invisible decisions that either feed courage or surrender to fear. You may think that greatness is reserved for the chosen few, for those with extraordinary circumstances or luck, but the reality is that the extraordinary is the natural outcome of consistent mental discipline and relentless focus. The first step in harnessing this power is to guard your inner dialogue like a fortress. Every word you say to yourself is a brick in the foundation of your life, and when negative thoughts are left unchecked, they create walls that confine rather than doors that open. Speak to yourself with the expectation of triumph, the certainty of potential, and the refusal to accept excuses. Failure will arrive, but it must be understood not as a verdict, but as evidence. Every misstep contains the coordinates of progress if you read it carefully and adjust accordingly. Those who fear failure are imprisoned by it, while those who learn from it become architects of opportunity. Between impulse and action lies a hairline fracture of time, a moment where most minds surrender, but the disciplined mind seizes it and transforms intention into reality. When every choice is made deliberately, when thought precedes action with clarity and purpose, life begins to bend toward those who refuse to move blindly. Desire alone is insufficient, it must be coupled with discipline. Hunger without structure is like fire without heat, bright but ineffective. Feed ambition with routines, habits, and focused effort until it becomes a force that commands attention rather than requests it. Fear, too, will rise like a shadow attempting to obscure your path, but shadows hold no power without your gaze. Confront it directly, act despite its presence, and you will discover that the universe has a strange tendency to yield to those who refuse to negotiate with hesitation. The mind that embraces these principles learns to see obstacles as guidance, setbacks as instruction, and fear as a signpost rather than a barrier. Every decision, every thought, and every deliberate action compounds into a reality that others might call luck, but it is the predictable consequence of disciplined thinking, relentless focus, and unwavering self-belief. To change your life, you must first change the way you think, the way you speak to yourself, and the way you act in those critical moments that define destiny. You must cultivate the mental habits that refuse mediocrity, that demand excellence, and that move through adversity not with complaint but with strategy, clarity, and audacity. Only when the mind is tamed, refined, and focused can it begin to shape circumstances, influence outcomes, and compel the world to bend toward the vision you hold. Life does not reward the passive or the hesitant. It responds only to those who command their own minds with unwavering authority. Every person carries within them a mind capable of shaping their reality, yet so many allow distraction, doubt, and indecision to dictate the terms of their existence. The first step in reclaiming control is to recognize that your thoughts are not neutral. They are seeds that either cultivate growth or nurture decay. To think like a master is not a matter of luck, talent, or circumstance. It is a matter of choice, discipline, and relentless awareness of the patterns that govern your own mind. Too often, individuals are trapped by the false belief that they must wait for opportunity, inspiration, or permission from the world to act, when in reality the world bends only to those who act decisively and intentionally. The ability to direct thought is the most powerful tool any person possesses, yet it is neglected, dismissed, and underestimated in favor of fleeting pleasures or meaningless routines. To reprogram the mind, you must first audit the inner dialogue that drives your daily life, identifying the self-sabotage that masquerades as caution, prudence, or modesty. Once these patterns are exposed, they can be replaced with affirmations of possibility, statements of purpose, and unwavering commitments to action. Next, learn to harness the power of visualization not as idle daydreaming, but as a rehearsal for reality. The mind cannot distinguish between vivid imagined experiences and actual events in terms of emotional response. Therefore, what is rehearsed with clarity, emotion, and repetition becomes familiar terrain in which confidence and decisive action naturally emerge. Discipline is the bridge between thought and result. Without it, ideas remain ephemeral, inspiration fades, and potential dissolves into regret. The disciplined mind structures each day around deliberate priorities, measuring every action against long-term goals rather than immediate gratification. Another essential principle is the cultivation of persistence that defies temporary setbacks. Every challenge, every obstacle, and every rejection carries information about strategy, preparation, and resilience. Those who yield to adversity remain constrained, while those who study and adapt transform obstacles into accelerators of success. Emotional mastery is equally critical. Unchecked emotions are like storms at sea, tossing the vessel of purpose in unpredictable directions. Learn to observe, manage, and channel emotion into fuel rather than distraction, and you gain the calm clarity required to seize opportunity when it arises. Lastly, understand that your environment is a reflection of the thoughts you cultivate. Surround yourself with influences that elevate, inspire, and challenge, and remove or limit exposure to those that diminish, distract, or dilute your focus. Every book read, every conversation engaged in, every habit developed either reinforces mediocrity or strengthens the architecture of success. By thinking strategically, acting deliberately, and persisting relentlessly, the mind transforms from a passive observer into an active architect of reality, capable of bending circumstances, shaping outcomes, and compelling the world to yield to clarity, purpose, and audacity. To master life, one must master the unseen realm of thought where every decision is born, every desire is nurtured, and every victory is first conceived in the silent chambers of the mind. Too many people wander through life believing that circumstance defines them, that events dictate their destiny, and that luck governs success. The painful truth is that the world does not owe anyone fairness, opportunity, or ease, and yet every individual carries the power to bend reality itself through disciplined thought, relentless focus, and decisive action. The mind is the true arena of influence, and those who understand its mechanics wield the ability to shape not only their own lives but the environment around them. The first principle is the recognition that self-limiting beliefs are far more dangerous than external obstacles. Fear, doubt, and hesitation are like invisible chains, binding the individual before the first step is ever taken. Every moment spent entertaining these thoughts strengthens them, while every moment spent challenging, questioning, and replacing them with purposeful conviction loosens their grip and amplifies capability. Once the mind is freed from self-imposed limitation, it can be trained to see opportunity where others see chaos, to recognize patterns where others see randomness, and to act with precision where others react in panic. The second principle is the cultivation of clarity of purpose. Without a definitive goal, energy is dispersed, actions become inconsistent, and progress stalls. The human mind is like a lens. Without focused intent, energy scatters like sunlight through a broken prism, warming many surfaces but igniting nothing. Clarity of purpose concentrates thought and action into a coherent force, a focused beam that illuminates the path and melts obstacles in its way. Third, the disciplined individual understands the compounding power of consistent action. Grand gestures are often less effective than steady, deliberate steps taken with unwavering attention to detail. The mind that is trained to act persistently, day after day, regardless of immediate results, accumulates momentum and influence that eventually becomes unstoppable. Discipline transforms desire into reality, planning into execution, and potential into measurable achievement. Fourth, one must master the art of resilience. Life will test, challenge, and sometimes betray expectation. Those who crumble under pressure are forgotten by history, while those who analyze, adapt, and persist turn adversity into advantage. Resilience is not merely the capacity to endure. It is the strategic response to circumstance, the ability to convert obstacles into stepping stones, and the skill of maintaining composure and focus while the world rages around you. Fifth, emotional mastery is a cornerstone of effectiveness. Emotions are the internal weather that shapes perception and drives reaction. A stormy mind produces chaotic action, while a controlled mind produces clarity, insight, and purpose-driven behavior. The ability to observe emotion without surrendering to it, to channel energy rather than waste it, separates those who succeed from those who drift aimlessly through life. Finally, the environment is both mirror and amplifier of thought. The people we interact with, the information we consume, and the habits we cultivate either elevate or diminish mental power. By deliberately selecting influences that reinforce excellence, provoke growth, and challenge mediocrity, the individual creates a feedback loop in which thought, action, and circumstance align to produce results far greater than would be possible through talent or effort alone. Through mastery of belief, clarity of purpose, disciplined action, resilience, emotional control, and deliberate environment, the mind becomes a forge in which the raw material of desire is transformed into the steel of achievement, capable of shaping outcomes, bending circumstances, and compelling the world to yield to vision, determination, and audacity. Most people live their lives reacting to circumstances rather than creating them, as if they are passengers on a train that they believe they cannot steer. The truth is harsher and more empowering. Your thoughts are the tracks, your focus is the engine, and your discipline is the fuel that determines where your journey leads. To bend the world in your favor, you must first bend your mind with precision, clarity, and unyielding intention. The first step is understanding that your beliefs dictate your reality far more than your environment ever could. Limiting beliefs are invisible barriers, and the mind that accepts them quietly resigns to mediocrity. Every time you challenge a self-imposed boundary, every time you refuse to accept "I can't" as truth, you chip away at the prison of doubt and expand the perimeter of possibility. Second, one must cultivate the habit of relentless focus. The mind is capable of immense power, but scattered attention dissipates it like sunlight through a clouded window. Concentrate on your highest priorities with unwavering intensity, and you will create a gravitational pull that draws opportunity, insight, and resources toward you in ways that those who drift cannot imagine. Third, action without alignment is wasted effort. Too many pursue goals without synchronizing thought, emotion, and behavior, resulting in scattered progress and frustration. True power emerges when your internal world and external actions move in harmony, creating momentum that accelerates progress and overcomes obstacles that would stop the unaligned. Fourth, embrace failure as an instrument of refinement rather than a verdict of inadequacy. Each misstep is a lens that reveals gaps in knowledge, strategy, or preparation. The mind that studies these moments, adjusts with insight, and persists with conviction transforms what looks like defeat into advantage, turning every challenge into a building block for future triumph. Fifth, develop emotional resilience as a core competency. The mind is both compass and engine, but emotions are the weather that can either guide or derail progress. A stormy emotional state obscures judgment and invites indecision, while emotional mastery allows the mind to navigate turbulence, respond strategically, and act decisively even in the most chaotic circumstances. Sixth, guard the quality of your environment, for it reflects and magnifies your mental state. Surround yourself with influences that elevate, challenge, and inspire, and remove those that distract, diminish, or encourage passivity. Every book, every conversation, and every habit either fortifies the architecture of success or erodes it slowly over time. Seventh, cultivate persistence that defies temporary setbacks and external judgment. The world often underestimates the power of a mind unwilling to yield. Those who persist, not blindly, but intelligently, analyzing, adapting, and acting with purpose, eventually compel circumstances to conform to their vision. By integrating disciplined thought, focused attention, aligned action, emotional mastery, deliberate environment, and relentless persistence, the mind becomes a formidable instrument capable of bending the currents of life, shaping outcomes that once seemed impossible, and creating a reality where opportunities align with intention, where obstacles become training grounds, and where the power to transform circumstance originates entirely from within the mind itself. The most overlooked truth about success is that it begins not with circumstance, talent, or luck, but with the relentless discipline of the mind. Most people wait for the world to hand them advantage, recognition, or clarity, and in the meantime, they squander the most powerful asset they already possess: their own thinking. Every thought is a seed, every choice a brushstroke, and every habit a brick in the foundation of the life you will inhabit. The first principle is to cultivate absolute awareness of your mental landscape. The mind is never neutral. It is either constructing opportunity or eroding it. Observe the automatic thoughts that pass through your consciousness. Identify which ones empower you and which ones confine you, and take deliberate control over what is allowed to dominate your inner dialogue. Second, you must master the art of decisive action. The world is indifferent to intention without execution, and brilliance without follow-through achieves nothing. Every hesitation, every maybe later, allows external circumstances to dictate your path instead of your own vision. Train yourself to act swiftly and intelligently, balancing thought with courage, until action becomes instinctive and opportunity responds naturally to your persistence. Third, embrace the principle of compound influence. Small, consistent actions, performed with focus and intention, accumulate power over time that eclipses sporadic bursts of effort. Discipline is the multiplier that converts desire into tangible results, persistence into achievement, and focus into momentum. Those who understand this quietly outperform those who rely on fleeting inspiration or external validation. Fourth, develop resilience as a strategy rather than a fallback. Life will challenge you with obstacles, rejection, and setbacks. But resilience is not simply the ability to endure. It is the ability to analyze, adjust, and leverage adversity as a tool for growth. Every trial is a lesson, every failure a blueprint for improvement, and every pressure point an opportunity to strengthen mental acuity and strategic vision. Fifth, cultivate emotional intelligence as a means of control, not indulgence. Unchecked emotions cloud judgment, distract from priorities, and erode discipline. The mind that observes without surrender, channels energy purposefully, and responds strategically under pressure gains leverage that others cannot access. Sixth, deliberately design your environment to reinforce excellence. The books you read, the people you associate with, and the habits you allow into your daily routine either amplify your potential or dilute it. Surround yourself with clarity, ambition, and uncompromising standards, and you will find that your external reality begins to echo the discipline and vision of your inner world. Seventh, understand that thought precedes influence. Before you can inspire, lead, or create impact in the world, you must first command your own mind. Every action, decision, and achievement is birthed from the silent deliberations and cultivated habits of mental rigor. The individual who masters thought, prioritizes purpose, aligns action with vision, persists through adversity, manages emotion with precision, and carefully curates their environment becomes unstoppable. Reality bends to those who refuse passivity, who refuse distraction, and who refuse compromise, turning deliberate mental mastery into measurable results, allowing obstacles to become instruments, challenges to become stepping stones, and latent potential to transform into extraordinary achievement, proving that the most powerful force in the universe is a mind disciplined, focused, and uncompromising in the pursuit of its vision. Stop pretending tomorrow holds your power. Stand up, sharpen your mind, and demand that life answers to you. From this moment on, bend your thoughts, bend your actions, and watch as the world bends for you.